Wendy Williams spent years in the public eye while much of her real struggle remained hidden. Viewers noticed the shaking hands, the moments of confusion, the interviews that felt off, but few understood how serious her situation had become. Now in her early 60s, Wendy has acknowledged what doctors had privately shared with her family for years. The diagnosis offered an explanation for much of what people had witnessed, even as the full reality shocked longtime fans. Known as the Queen of Gossip, Wendy Williams ultimately became the subject of a story she never planned to tell. She was born on July 18, 1964, in Asbury Park, New Jersey, a city already strained by social tension. Her parents, Shirley Skinner and Thomas Dwayne Williams, were highly educated teachers who valued discipline, structure, and education above all else. Despite their stability, they could not protect their family from the unrest that exploded in the summer of 1970, when Wendy was just 6 years old. Fires burned through neighborhoods, police flooded the streets, and hundreds were injured. Fearing for their children's safety, her parents relocated the family to Wayside, a quieter suburb. The move placed Wendy in a mostly white community where she immediately felt different, caught between her roots and her new surroundings. That early upheaval left a mark. Wendy grew into a child with intense energy and a commanding presence. Doctors labeled her hyperactive and suggested medication, but her parents chose dietary restrictions and strict routines instead. She was taller and heavier than most children her age, standing nearly 6 feet tall by 6th grade. She stood out whether she wanted to or not, and the focus on discipline and control planted insecurities that followed her into adulthood. Later, when she spoke about addiction and dependency, she often traced those struggles back to the pressure she felt growing up. Despite this, Wendy's personality shone through early. She joined the Girl Scouts, volunteered at hospitals, and discovered a love for performance when she announced her brother's Little League games. Her parents imagined a practical career for her, but Wendy was drawn to microphones and audiences. Summers spent in Oak Bluffs on Martha's Vineyard became a refuge. Surrounded by Black culture, history, and confidence, she felt a sense of belonging that contrasted sharply with her school life back home. Those summers helped her develop pride in who she was, even as she learned to navigate multiple worlds. In 1982, Wendy enrolled at Northeastern University in Boston, majoring in communications and minoring in journalism. The real education happened at the campus radio station, where she hosted a show that embraced hip-hop long before it was widely accepted. She studied how to captivate listeners, how to tease stories, and how to speak with confidence. She spent hours listening to New York radio legends, treating every broadcast like a lesson. By the time she graduated in 1986, she had already shaped the voice that would define her career. Her first professional job took her to the Virgin Islands, but the reality fell short of the dream. The pay was low, the format didn't suit her, and she felt isolated. After months of frustration, she returned to the mainland, determined to find her place. That persistence paid off when she landed a weekend slot at New York's Hot 97. Overnight shifts followed, giving her freedom to experiment. She mixed music with gossip and personality, slowly building a loyal audience. Though she was fired 2 years later, she proved she could survive the city's competitive radio scene. Her move to Kiss FM in 1989 changed everything. She introduced a gossip segment that drew massive attention, and by the early 1990s she had become one of the most powerful voices in urban radio. Awards followed, along with controversy. Wendy pushed boundaries relentlessly, earning complaints from industry executives and celebrities alike. But her audience grew with every clash. She understood that listeners wanted boldness and honesty, even when it made people uncomfortable. Her interviews became legendary, especially moments like her tense on-air exchange with Whitney Houston in 2003. The confrontation captured national attention and cemented Wendy's reputation as fearless. Around the same time, she began opening up about her own demons, admitting years of cocaine addiction that overlapped with her rise in radio. She quit without formal rehab and kept the secret for years, later acknowledging that addiction stole a decade of her life. Her career continued to expand despite repeated backlash. She moved between cities, sparked feuds, and built a national audience. By the mid-2000s, her radio show reached millions weekly, and she earned top industry honors. She added author and entrepreneur to her resume, releasing books and launching products that extended her brand beyond broadcasting. In 2008, Wendy transitioned to daytime television. What began as a short test run quickly turned into a national phenomenon. Her talk show thrived on unpredictability, humor, and raw honesty. Ratings soared, even as controversy followed her every move. She faced criticism for insensitive jokes and comments, but she remained a dominant force in daytime TV, eventually winning an Emmy and competing with the biggest names in the industry. Behind the scenes, her health was deteriorating. She collapsed on air and was diagnosed with Graves' disease, a thyroid condition that explained her bulging eyes, tremors, and fatigue. Later, she revealed she also suffered from lymphedema, which caused painful swelling in her legs. Still, she kept working, often pushing herself beyond what her body could handle. Her personal life unraveled publicly after the collapse of her marriage to Kevin Hunter, her husband and manager. His long-term affair and secret child devastated her. Wendy entered rehab for alcohol addiction, and soon after, her cognitive health began to decline. Doctors later diagnosed her with frontotemporal dementia and primary progressive aphasia, conditions that affect language, behavior, and judgment. As her health worsened, financial chaos followed. Banks froze her accounts over concerns of exploitation, and the court placed her under guardianship. Wendy insisted she was mentally capable and described the situation as a prison. Legal battles erupted involving her ex-husband, her son, and her appointed guardian. The conflict strained her closest relationships and left her increasingly isolated. A documentary released in 2024 revealed the depth of her decline, showing confusion, emotional instability, and vulnerability. Medical evaluations confirmed irreversible neurological damage, though Wendy continued to fight for autonomy. On her 61st birthday, she publicly demanded freedom from guardianship, insisting she was sober and clear-minded. Courts upheld the arrangement, citing medical evidence. Wendy Williams' life tells a complex story of ambition, resilience, excess, and loss. She built an empire by saying what others wouldn't, but the same intensity that fueled her success also left her exposed when her health failed. Once a woman who controlled the narrative, Wendy now struggles to reclaim her voice, reminding the world that fame does not protect anyone from the weight of illness, betrayal, or time.